Whole Earth is the sequel of Hard Rain, which is a 60-meter long exhibition that includes photos and written evidence and really calls upon all disciplines from the curriculum to solve some of the world's most pressing issues. So we launched 6 £1,000 student fellowships, and it was a call to students to answer the Whole Earth University challenges and build projects around those, giving them a chance to make a difference on campus and through their work, through their studies, and giving them the resources and support to do so.
By implementing the fellowship program, we have tried to bring down the very theoretical abstract goals of the Whole Earth exhibition down to a very practical local level, engaging in local projects that matter to us here directly. By helping those students, we wanted to give them the chance to do those projects to enable change, to use their imagination, to use their creativity, and to use their own skills. And we want them to lead with best examples. We want to show best practices, what can be done with our students, with our leaders of the future, if only given just a little bit of help. And finally, we also want to promote cooperation between the students, but also between the student bodies and academics. And we want both academics to engage to help our students in reaching those sustainability goals and also look at the sustainability goals themselves.
So my project, London Under Sea, basically looks at the Thames Barrier and the future challenges that it faces. So Thames Barrier was built approximately 30 years ago, and it was predicted to protect London from flooding for the next 30 years. However, recently a big report from the Environment Agency basically questioned whether that is the case and whether actually the Thames Barrier is going to be fit for purpose in the next few years. So my project basically explored these issues, looking at different perspectives and opportunities that this presents. I compiled all this research into a magazine, and one of the major challenges was collecting the content in time because we had quite a short time period. So the aims of the project are firstly to raise awareness about the Thames Barrier and the risks of climate change that face London. Secondly, to engage students and professionals in the issue that I'm exploring, particularly because I'm based at the Department of Landscape and Architecture at the University of Greenwich. There's a lot of students and tutors and professionals exploring these issues, which are going to be the major challenge of the 21st century, so I want to engage them in that issue. And thirdly, linked in with that, I launched my magazine in time for the UN Climate Change Conference in Paris to bring in a local conversation in the wider international challenge of climate change.
The problem I'm trying to solve is the lack of zero carbon, clean, renewable energy that can be used in modern society to meet electricity demands, really. The use of hydrogen in this is it's probably one of the most promising sources of energy that we're going to come across, but the production of it isn't always clean, zero carbon, renewable, those sort of things. So mainly trying to find a way that can use solar energy to harness the use of tungsten trioxide electrodes to turn that solar energy into energy that can split water, H2O, into hydrogen, H2 and oxygen. The obstacles we're trying to face, we did face in the experiment, were normal scientific obstacles that people usually encounter, such as experiments going slightly wrong, things not working out the first time you think they will, and lack of repeatability in some of the results and stuff. So we just had to redo some of the things, try some of the experiments again, try and find out whether the techniques we were doing were right or wrong, and then improve on them from there. The expectations from this project that I've got are to obviously develop myself as a scientist and improve that side of me, but also in terms of the experiment, trying to develop a good source of making hydrogen from tungsten trioxide, testing whether or not that's feasible, testing whether or not the porosity of different chloronic polymers that we put in affects the outcomes or not, and whether Those things can make the process more efficient, more useful, and try and help to solve the problems that we've faced, really.
At the moment I'm doing this project for the sales of coffee cups and reducing waste. So the main problem I'm trying to solve is obviously waste reduction, but instead of doing the traditional route of corporations having the responsibility, is about bringing that responsibility back to the individual so that they're more aware of what they're doing personally and how they can change their own habits to reduce the overall waste. The main part for me, because I'm doing this project as a case study initially, was getting the data off of the catering company which are running at this campus. They were actually very compliant, which is very helpful, and I found out that they've got a lot of existing schemes going on, and actually what my project idea was, they're already running something very similar but on in the opposite direction. So my main aim, as I mentioned, is to bring the awareness of waste back to the user, and how we've done this is taking hot beverages as a case study and people's spending habits with them. Most people currently will pick up one of the paper disposable cups and fill that, drink it, and then throw it straight away. What we're trying to achieve here is a mentality where people stop picking up the paper cups and bring their own reusable thermos flask or something similar, or china mug, and basically with one of those the numbers come out that within 9 uses of a china mug you've already used less waste than with a paper cup. So the difference between the two is enormous. So essentially it's trying to get people away from the paper and towards the reusable items. Within this project I'm doing a marketing stall for a couple of days to actually get people to come and see what's happening, and then afterwards produce a report which will be sent also to the catering company and hopefully to the university, and see if we can get the philosophy instilled for the future.
So the main problem in question that we're trying to tackle with our project is the Syrian refugee crisis, and around it there are several smaller problems which are media misrepresentation, common misconceptions in the general public, as well as a lack of human touch to the cold numbers provided.
The problem we're trying to solve is that Syrians are misrepresented as, well, you commonly see it as terrorists or threats to society. But we're trying to bring a human aspect to the crisis and show their stories, their backgrounds, their travels to the country, and kind of try and get people to sympathise with them a little bit, but know that they're real people, know that they're one of us.
The current obstacles we're facing are getting in contact with the Syrian refugees. We tried to contact 4 charities within the UK, one within Syria and one within Calais, all of which said they were unable to actually put us into contact with refugees, as they said that they work with them primarily in Calais or in displaced areas around Syria. But we have since then managed to find a contact, and hopefully should be able to move forward well.
So the final results are 4 elements of the project which all play together to promote one another, and one of them is an interactive website which provides information that is easy to access to inform the public about what's going on. It also provides the stories from the refugees to you, so it's not filtered by media or anything else. It's literally just both a verbal and a visual representation of the struggles they face, and as well as a store page where you can pre-order a publication, which is a picture book, and all the funds go to charities supporting the cause. Another element of the project is the exhibition, which exhibits abstract pieces of digital art representing people and their struggles. Another element is the before-mentioned publication, which is a picture book. Again, people's portrait photography and stories or little summaries that are representative of their character. And the last element is print advertising campaign which works together with a media advertising campaign.
So I'm trying to research the benefits of eating healthy vegetables. I want to see what are their nutritional value. Carrots and tomatoes are very common vegetable garden that anybody can buy. So I think it's really important that even if you don't have a lot of money, you can provide yourself with like a range of healthy food that you can eat, and you don't have to go and eat fast food and all sorts of junk food that is not really healthy. I haven't had a lot of obstacles lately. Most of all, I've had to reschedule some of the lab sessions because of availability issues, but all the analyses have been running smoothly. So what we're trying to see are the antioxidant properties of the carotenoids. I want to find out what type of carotenoids, what other types of carotenoids are in carrots and tomatoes. And hopefully we can balance out if organic or non-organic products are better or not.
I've started researching the problem of urban river systems and biodiversity 2 years ago as part of my bachelor's degree. And we are now using the Whole Earth Fellowship Program in order to explore these possibilities further.
One of the aspects of green infrastructure we're really interested in is living walls. And of course, living walls have the potential to bring biodiversity back into cities, onto the walls of cities, and onto the roofs as well in terms of green roofs. Now, one of the problems with urban rivers is that urban rivers really have been channelized, and they basically have concrete walls or timber walls, etc., with very little vegetation or biodiversity.
The river wall system that we're trying to develop here is that the River Thames is often seen as a dirty river because of it's brown and it's not very green. So we've developed this idea of creating a green wall, a vertical floodplain system that we attach to the River Thames walls, and this will increase biodiversity and the aesthetic value of the Thames.
One of the big question marks in our project is it going to work, or are we going to fail? And I think we are quite optimistic that it is going to work, because if you look at Deptford, for example, you will find all sorts of rubbish inside the river, such as trolleys or tires, or just general rubbish people dump into Deptford Creek. And if you look closer, you actually see that there's lots of biodiversity in these accumulations of rubbish, because suddenly fish live in a trolley, and you've got algae growing, and all sorts of wildlife starting to kick off in these accumulations of rubbish, which is quite exciting, because it does look very, very, dirty and not very valuable. But actually, once you see, once you look at this closer, you see that there's a lot of wildlife in these trolleys and in this rubbish.
The obstacles that we're facing is just the initial design and trying to think of the best ways that we can create something that will last in the river and something that will benefit the ecosystems there. We don't want to affect the ecosystems with what we install. We just want to amplify and increase what's going on there, and with as little disturbance, really.